We're back, everybody. I wanted to give you guys an update on the real world forage soybeans that I planted this spring. I think it was like the first week or second week of June I planted these. And the deer have been absolutely pounding these ever since the day they popped out of the ground. You can see all these leaves are nipped off, but what's been impressive to me is the way they've been able to power up through all that browse pressure. And if you look, there's tons of bean pods in here. Let's get right down in here so you guys can see, but look at all those bean pods, tons of them in there. So even though they've been browsed really hard, we've got lots of beans. And the other really cool thing is I took a blend of brassicas, and there's some rows in here that didn't ever grow. Well, they never got seeded because when we were going downhill or uphill, all the forage soybeans were going into the back of the bin and they weren't going down the chute. So you have strips where I came up the hill where the soybeans didn't get planted, and I took and planted brassicas in there in all those spots, and the brassica's coming up really well. It grew like crazy actually. And even in here, this is rapeseed that's coming up. You know, that's right here in the middle of the soybeans. We'll walk in here and give you a closer look at the brassicas. It's really pretty amazing how big it's actually gotten in here. There's quite a few weeds coming up in here too, but these rows of brassicas are doing really well. There's another rapeseed right there. It was I can't remember what mix it was, but it was a mix that I took and just broadcasted right here into the beans where it was thin, and they're coming up really quite well. You can see, you know, any open spot that was in the beans, it's coming up good in there. So there's going to be a ton of food right here this fall between the beans and the brassicas and whatnot. And this is always a really great spot to have a lot of food, not necessarily for hunting, but it's a lot of fun watching, you know, late in the winter from the house, all the deer that funnel in here in the evenings and stuff. And it's just a fun place to watch them. You know, this is a plat that fed the buck that we called Paul for years. You know, every winter he would pretty much live in here. He lived over on Bryan's across the road until he got killed. But actually one day I was looking at deer through the spotting scope, and I was like, I'll be damned, there's a horn sticking up out of the snow, and came down here and that was Paul's antler. Actually right here, this is where it was. I seen it right from the spotting scope. But the deer oftentimes will bed right in this thick bedding, this red brush that's grown up over the years. There's quite a few apple trees and berry bushes and stuff in there, but it's just really thick bedding. It's nice to have this food really close to thick bedding. So if, you know, you get lots of pressure up there in the big woods, a lot of these deer funnel into these thick areas, and they, as long as they have food and no pressure, they'll stay right there and pretty much call it home. So everything's looking pretty good. I'll go show you the new seeding up here and the strip food plat that I got stick tights all over me somehow. I'm going to show you the brassica right here as well. That right there is a sawtooth oak that is now 3 years old. Looking really good. And right over here is one of the brassica plots. And this is just like a tiny little 1/4 acre plot. There's a lot of weeds coming up in here. This used to be a compost pile that I took the excavator, and when I cleaned this ditch out up here next to the field, I just flattened all this out and pushed it down and just turned it into a spot that I could plant some more food. And brassica's coming up good here. Look, there's a massive deer trail going right around that edge right there. Huge deer trail right there. We'll have to get a camera up on, I'll come down and clean this stuff out of here and get a camera on that tree pointed right there to catch what's coming through there. there's another sawtooth oak. It's doing really well. So this is a strip food plot, and I just came in here this spring and frost seeded all this with clover, and the clover has come up really, really well. I came in here and brush hogged it a couple weeks ago, but you can see it's just all real thick clover coming up. Looks really good. There's a couple apple trees in here that are holding a good amount of apples. There's one right there, and the other one's in that patch of trees right there that's doing pretty well.